Our report says Senator Joe Manchin wants to support the pro-life Hyde Amendment. According to a story today in Bloomberg, the West Virginia Democrat said, quote, "I'm going to support Hyde in every way possible." President Joe Biden has repeatedly said that he will repeal the amendment, which bans federal funds from being used for abortion except in cases of rape or incest. Joining us now is Vince Coglianese, editorial director at the Daily Caller and the host of the Vince Coglianese Show on WMAL Radio. Vince, welcome back. Always great to see you. Senator Manchin says that he will support the pro-life Hyde Amendment in every way possible. That said, what can he do? And do you think it would be enough to stop the efforts to repeal it?
Well, I think it's absolutely enough to have one senator out of the 50 senators who caucus with the Democrats saying that they are going to fight to defend taxpayers from having to be forcibly involved in paying for abortions in the United States. The Hyde Amendment, as your viewers know, keep taxpayer funding from going into abortion. And what Joe Manchin said this week is gigantic. He said he is not going to be a vote to support any spending bill that allows for your taxpayer money to be spent on abortions in the United States. So now what that means is you essentially have 51 senators, at least, the Republicans, and one Democrat, Joe Manchin, who are saying enough. We're not spending this money on abortions. Now, again, that is a slim margin, and it's very much the kind of thing that could disappear at any moment. But Joe Manchin holding strong, I think that this is a monumental win for pro-life Americans who are looking to keep their taxpayer money from contributing to abortions. Joe Manchin standing up for them this week.
Vice President Kamala Harris, as you know, she just returned from her trip to Central America. I'd like to get your thoughts on how that trip went. It seems like she's been receiving, that is, quite a bit of criticism from both Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, I try to be nice about this, but it was a disaster. That's the truth, because Kamala Harris, the vice president, has been asked a question over and over and over again, even before she went on this trip. Will you go to the southern border of the United States? The reason that question matters is because President Biden tasked her with stopping the border crisis. Now, if you were to ask the vice president's office what her mission is, it is to stem the tide by addressing the, quote, root causes. That means avoiding the border entirely, in her mind, and going instead to Central America to try and get people to stop immigrating illegally north into the United States. And the way to do that, well, the Biden administration thinks that you just have to bring bags of cash down there. You just bring a lot more money down to Central America, and it will stop that migration. And that's just never been the case. Both the Washington Post and the New York Times ran stories this week looking back at the history of the amount of money that we've put into Central America and have discovered it doesn't stop immigration. Things have only gotten worse on our southern border. And this week, Kamala Harris goes down there, gives a series of mixed messages, tells people not to come, although over 60% of the family units that arrive on our border are allowed into the United States by the Biden administration. So that's a mixed message. And then every time she's asked repeatedly whether or not she's going to visit the southern border, she kept insisting she's already been to the border. She doesn't know why she needs to go to the border. She might go to the border at some point. And she, got, I think, more and more annoyed as the trip went along, that she was being asked that question. In PR terms, it was a disaster. And in real terms, it did nothing to stop the crisis.
Vince, we have about a minute left, but I want to stick to the border right here. It seems Texas has really kind of had enough and is taking matters into its own hands and now plans to build their own border wall. What do you think that says about how the Biden administration has been handling the situation?
Well, it says that the border states are absolutely overwhelmed and they are desperate for help that they are not getting from the Biden administration. For instance, in Texas specifically, not only are they trying to put walls up because the federal government won't do that job, they are also very heavily taxed in terms of their resources. You have police officers in the state of Texas who are having to assist Border Patrol in the mission of securing the border. You've got all sorts of expenses that the state of Texas is taking on. All the border states are. And in fact, Governor Greg Abbott is trying to bill the federal government for all of the money that they're having to spend that they never predicted they would have to spend in the first place, because they couldn't have predicted the crisis that we're now seeing. Things are out of control, and those border states need help, and every state in the country is going to need help as more and more illegal immigrants make their way into the United States and then are spread out everywhere. Things are just completely out of control with no end in sight.
Well, Vince, unfortunately, we have to leave it right there. Thanks so much for weighing in. Vince Coglianese, editorial director at the Daily Caller. Thank you again.
Thank you.